Listen, I've been dancing for at least 15 seconds, waiting for Facebook, Instagram to connect. Hello, YouTube, if that is where you are tuning in to today's episode of Day to Day with Dorothy. Okay, Instagram, we're on Wi Fi. Do not play me in this season. Let me pop today's title on the gram and then let's have a little bit of chitter chat. I wanna tell y'all a little story. Um, okay, what I know for sure. That's the name of today's episode. Let me pin that because sis might forget. Okay, so I want to tell y'all a little story and then we're going to jump into our content. If you're like, who are you? I'm Dorothy Enriquez. I am the principal and founder of The Communication Strategist, a boutique learning and leadership development firm turning into a collective where we partner with corporations, nonprofits, small businesses, and individuals to ensure that leaders are optimized in their leadership and influence to make sure that they're equipped to lead from every seat they sit in. That's the requirement. Oh my God, look at Instagram. I see hearts. I see hearts, and I don't know where these hearts are coming from. Well, bless you. Listen, I love company. Hello, Facebook. I see you, but unless you comment, I don't know who you are. So, listen, I'm trying to hydrate. I just don't feel like I've had enough water today. So, let's have a quick little story. I went to Texas for Easter so that I could hang out with my sister and her dog. And so I'm in Texas and did I have a training session while I was out there? It wasn't like a total vacation. I did work while I was there. But returning, I wanted to be back in time for two very important training sessions with two very important clients. One of them being Northwestern Mutual, and the other one being Reach Counseling. So listen, I'm on my way. Get to the airport. I'm there early because I was flying out of Love Field, which is a teeny tiny airport, tiny like Milwaukee, right? And so I'm like, great, everything's great. We're on a good track. This is beautiful. And then I have a layover. Let me tell you, I like direct. I like nonstop because I just feel like we avoid the shim sham nonsense and foolery. There were no direct nonstop flights that worked with my schedule that day because I wanted to spend time with y'all and have day to day with Dorothy, which we did that last week, right? I'm at the airport, laid over in Atlanta. Don't lay over there if you don't have to. So, sitting around, flight's just a little delayed, just a touch delayed. And then 20 minutes after sitting there waiting, they're like, we're canceling your flight. Excuse me, what? What? I'm sorry, what? I have things to do. I'm sure everyone here has things to do. What is your life about? Here I am thinking, okay, I'm going to get home at like midnight. No. I am not going to get home until the next day. I was on hold for 2.5 hours trying to get someone on Delta. If you work at Delta, please call me. I want a voucher. I want cookies, those little Biscoff cookies. Send me those. Like, it was preposterous. And I don't know what was up with the website. Oh, what a mess. And so I did not get home until the next day. But because I am in my zone of genius, right? And I love what I do, I did everything in my power to not have to cancel the training that was happening last week with my first client. And so I'm emailing these folks at 11 p.m. at night, 1 a.m. in the morning, 2 a.m. in the morning, canceling, rescheduling. And finally, we end with being able to do 1 hour of a 2.5 hour program because I really wanted to spend time with my client. I really, really love what I do. So if I cannot do it, I am despondent. I was made for this. Like, I got to. So, that is my chitter chat for today. I hope that all of us, with all of our melanin poppin', can get to a point where we love what we do so much that we are like legitimately bummed when things get in the way and obstacles appear to prevent us from doing what the hell we said we wanted to do, which in my case, it was do some diversity, equity, and inclusion work with my client. So, anyway, today I want to talk about what I know for sure. There's a couple things that I know for sure, and I wanted to share them with y'all and see what you think. Hey, Shine TT, shoulder roll, shoulder roll. So, look, I had a couple things that I wanted to run by y'all, right? And just have a little bit of a chitter chat. So, look, one thing that I believe is 1000% true: the founding fathers of leadership did not have us in mind when they created a lot of these best practices, a lot of these theories, a lot of these concepts. They didn't have us in mind. Us being women, especially black women, and us being women of color, right? They didn't have us in mind. The founding fathers, look at that, founding fathers. So the founding fathers of leadership, white men. And now they're old white men. What does an old white guy know about a 20, 30, 40, 50 something year old black woman or Hispanic woman or Asian woman? Nothing, right? They don't know anything. And so when I read these books, when I attend these classes, here's what I know for sure: they weren't made for us. Mm-mm. Because they don't incorporate what it is like to be a woman ascending and matriculating through the corporate system or nonprofit or small business. It doesn't account for any of that. And it doesn't account for how women come into power and what happens when we wield power, obtain it, maintain it, and then pass the torch, right? Or pass the mantle. What does all that look like, especially not just women across the board, but women of color, specifically black women? It looks different. How many white leaders do you know that do the just due process of passing the torch to a woman of color, and that they do the extra work that is needed to ensure that it will be a success? Exactly. Oftentimes when we're passing the torch and there's a woman ascending into power to replace a white woman or a white man, they're not doing some of this other due diligence that's necessary. But you know what? When a lot of this stuff was created, they didn't have us in mind. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. And that's why I'm so passionate about the work that I do. And so when I have clients that have a heavy population of women and a heavy population of people of color, y'all, I am in my genius zone, okay? Like, this is why I live and breathe, because this is absolutely my jam. Ooh, TCS mommy and daddy are here. Hey, parents. So, I want to talk about a couple ideas that I have been putting forth for several months now around what I believe is absolutely true. Hello, Feliciano. Welcome, welcome. It's so true, right? So true for melanin women. Our journey just looks different, right? And it looks different for melanated men as well. None. They sit by with an evaluation form to compare and contrast performance and endurance. That. Exactly. And the process should look and be different because the circumstances surrounding the passing of the torch and transition of power, it looks different, right? And the thing is, one thing that I always talk about is how a lot of us just don't prepare for transition. We don't even account for it. We're like, oh my God, I'm graduating from college. I am ready to get a job. Let's do this. Let's go. Hire me. And then we get into the job, we're on the struggle bus, and we're kicking ourselves. We're kicking our school. We're kicking our advisor. We're kicking our, classmates. Like, why didn't anyone tell me? And for whatever reason, we never talk about transition lag. How long does it take for us to adjust, even though we've been experiencing it our entire life, right? If you stayed at home with your parents until kindergarten, there was a lag. If you went to high school, there was a lag between middle school and high school. If you went to college, also another lag. That first semester or that first year, freshman year, train wreck for many of us, right? That's when I got my first set of like straight C's. I was an A student and then entered college and it was game over for me, right? Because I, Dorothy, did not account for the transition at all. Not even a little bit, right? So, again, when we think about how women of color ascend into power and how we matriculate through corporate, nonprofit, small business, entrepreneurship, it just looks different. So, there's some absolutes that I feel are immutable, right? There's no arguing. I feel like resistance is futile. Absolute number one, you are required to lead from every seat you sit in. I legit don't care what you say. You are required to lead from every seat that you sit in. Leadership is influence. You might be like, oh, well, I'm a stay at home mom. Okay, but you're still a leader because you've got kids. And your kids are looking for you to influence how they're going to grow up and act like they've got some brought up seat when they get into the real world, right? So you're still a leader, right? If you are a member of the PTA, if you sit on any boards, if you have multiple roles at your job, if you have a job, but then you're also a side hustler, you are literally leading in multiple capacities. As women, most of us wear multiple hats, which means in each of those seats that we sit in, we must lead, right? That's number one. Number two, every single time that you transition, it is an opportunity where you should look at your leadership. Look at how you're showing up. Because again, we don't account for the lag. Listen, it doesn't just happen in the working world, it happens in our personal life. What happens when we go from being single to married? What happens when we go from being married with no kids to married with kids? What happens when we go from being married with kids to kids out of the house? Or from married to divorced? Or from divorced back to married again? All of these are transitions, and we often fail to account for that transition process and how long it's going to take. At work, often that transition to go from like individual contributor to people leader, 18 to 24 months. And guess who is struggling right along with you as you're trying to get your poop in a group? Everybody who reports to you and everybody who is your peer and anybody that you have to report to. Everybody is going to struggle right along with you if you don't account for and prepare for the lag that's going to happen. The lag is inevitable, but what can we do to shorten it and be powerful and present as we get up to speed? And part of that is just knowing that a lag exists. Transition lag is real. Third idea. Third non negotiable, absolute, irrefutable. I don't care what you say. No one, I mean, no one ever became phenomenal without help. Not one single person. I don't care who it is. Even Einstein had help. His wife, Maleva, was helping him all the way through. She probably didn't get any credit on those papers that he wrote as he was trying to build a name for himself, but even Einstein had help, and he's a damn genius, right? How much more so for the rest of us who are not geniuses? But we really are striving to operate in our genius zone. This idea that we can't ask for help or we shouldn't ask for help or we have to have it all figured out is preposterous. I don't think that that's how we were built, especially as women and as female leaders. We were built to be in relationship, right? Be in relationship with others. It's like in our DNA to like network, build relationship, maintain relationship, build rapport. Listen, Instagram is betraying me, y'all. I don't know what is happening on Facebook. Facebook seems to be fine. IG, what's happening here? So anyway, so number one, you're required to lead from every seat you sit in. Number two, every time you transition, it's an opportunity to look at your leadership. Number three, no one, not even Oprah had help. Oprah had coaches, Oprah had mentors, Oprah had all sorts of folks helping her along the way, giving her a shot, giving her an opportunity, taking a chance on her, allowing her to explore, allowing her to fail, allowing her to move forward, allowing her to keep trying. No one became phenomenal without ever been a better time to be a lady leader. Ever. Now is as good a time as any. And because we are required to lead from every seat that we sit in, let's put these high heels on and get ready to break some glass and still keep walking around. Because we've got our shoes on. We are prepared. It's that whole if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. But the thing is, truly, when the founding fathers created all this leadership jazz, they didn't have us in mind, right? That's why they're the founding fathers. Who are the, we don't talk about the founding mothers of leadership. I know Margaret Hesselbein is one of them, but again, that's just not who we talk about. Even when I was studying leadership from a classic standpoint, like 20 years ago, Margaret Hesselbein was one of the few lady leaders who had positional authority in leadership. Again, Kouzes and Posners, dudes. John Maxwell, dude. Stephen Covey, dude. Ken Blanchard, dude. Like, all dudes. You know what I'm saying? So when we think about how we go through these leadership classes, they weren't designed for us. This is why I created the communication strategist, because I'm like, I know why sometimes we can't get to where we need to go. It's because, like, there's some intricate pieces that are fundamentally missing from the courseware. What if we could learn from people who looked like us, who understand what happens as we matriculate through the system? What would that be like? What would that kind of impact have in our workshops, our seminars, our conferences, our classrooms at work? How much different would it be as we go through the process? Northwestern Mutual, right? So that's one of my clients. They have now created a Black women's ERG. Y'all know I was in corporate for almost 20 years. I ain't worked nowhere that had a Black women's ERG. Most of the companies I worked at had an ERG of some kind. Even my first job, I was in the women's leadership ERG, right? But it wasn't a Black women's leadership ERG, that's for sure. It's like the fact that NM is doing something so pivotal, I'm like blown away. I cannot wait to see what this organization puts together for their Black lady leaders in that company. Like, mind blown. But at the end of the day, those are the absolutes, right? They're non-refutable. You cannot you can't argue with me. You just cannot. It is what it is. It's the truth. And that is how I position my learning and development, my leadership programming, my coaching, how I position the theories that I leverage from that lens of we are required to lead from every seat that we sit in. Every time we transition, it is an opportunity for us to look at how we're showing up, because we have to account for the lag. And how can we still perform in the midst of uncertainty? No one ever became phenomenal without help, and there's never ever been a better time to be a lady leader. Those are the things that I know for sure. And I know for sure them founding fathers ain't see me coming 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 75 years ago. And I definitely want to thank y'all for rocking and rolling with me. We've got some exciting things coming up. If you are subscribed to the email list, stay tuned. I know it's been like 3 weeks since I sent an email. Ugh, don't judge me. Don't judge my life. But I'm getting my life together, and we gonna get it all the way snatched, edges laid. Let's go. So, if these nuggets have been helpful, I'm sure they have. I know they've been helpful because these nuggets have been helpful. Please share this video with another lady leader. The funny part is they hesitate to hire executives to lead employee relations groups, or at least without a decade of experience. What? Executive inclusion is certainly missing among minority women. Ooh, you are not wrong. That is so good. I'm glad that I was able to see that before signing off. No, you are right. And okay, yes. And here's what's interesting. A lot of the ERGs of companies that I support and ERGs of companies that I've worked for, the executive sponsor, even though it's like the women's ERG, the executive sponsor is a guy. If it's the black ERG, the executive sponsor is a white person. And there's not enough executive sponsors to go around to be able to highlight that. And I do know that organizations want sponsors to get exposure, but at the same time, a lot of times those sponsors are not fully engaged in those ERGs anyway. So, how much more beneficial would it be to have an executive sponsor that really represents or aligns in some way with the ERG that they're supporting versus, well, every ERG must have an executive sponsor? Just food for thought, y'all. I just want to come on here and tell y'all some things that I know for sure and really hear what y'all have to think. I definitely want to hear what y'all are thinking and how this resonates and how you see some of this content coming to life day to day at work for you. Share this video, hit the little share button on Facebook, the little paper plane on IG, and we will be back here next week for another episode of Day to Day with Dorothy. If you've got content that you'd like me to cover, shoot me a note. You know where I live. Let's do this. All right. You know the requirement. You're required to lead from every seat you sit in. But the good news is you got this. I'll see y'all next week. Bye. Okay, Facebook. You know you always get the last. Show the roll. Yeah. Did you like that? Like jazz hands? Like lots of drama? I'll see y'all next week. Bye.